NCAA Division II, second-rated North Dakota State Bison, out to topple the #1 University of Nebraska at Omaha Mavericks. And now, calling the action live from the UNO Fieldhouse, Tori Pantalian and R.J. Nebe.
Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this great collegiate wrestling match. The #1 Mavericks against the #2 North Dakota State Bison. R.J. Nebe, former UNO wrestler and All-American. I got the great privilege to have him call his national championship win his final year here at UNO on local television. I'm telling you now, R.J., you've been involved in this matchup. We've talked about it before. This matchup has to be one of the best across the country, not just in this region.
Oh, without a doubt. You're looking at two of the most dominant teams in the country. Each year these teams are consistently in the top 5 in the national tournament, as well as winning the NCC conference every year. North Dakota State has won the conference 9 years straight, and UNO has been second to them 7 of those 9.
You know, you mentioned earlier before we were talking that when these two teams get together, North Dakota State doesn't like to come here to wrestle, and UNO doesn't like to go to Fargo to wrestle, and it is, lack of a better word, I guess, is collegiate sports. This can end up being a bloodbath.
Yeah, like I said earlier, there is a little animosity here between the two teams. And like I said, there might be a few matches get out of control. I wouldn't be surprised.
Let's take a look at some of the people that we're going to see. At 118 pounds, Ted Nelson, the senior for UNO out of Wichita, Kansas, will be taking on North Dakota State's son, North Dakota State coach Bucky Maugh's son, Brett Maugh. He's a senior. Of course, he's from Fargo. At 126 pounds, it will be Mark Bauer out of Kearney. He's a sophomore. He'll be going up against Wayne Werner, a senior out of Perham, Minnesota. At 134 pounds, Billy Glenn from Fairfield, Iowa. He's just a junior. He'll be taking on Lloyd Wurm, a sophomore from Maple Lake, Minnesota. And at 142 pounds, Scott Ruff will take on Joe Vettel. Scott, of course, a junior from Riverton, Wyoming, and Vettel is a freshman out of Cummings, North Dakota. So this will end up being a good thing to watch. We're going to take time right now as we are going to have the playing of our national anthem here at the UNO Fieldhouse.
Our national anthem.
From a fine crowd, and of course I've got to put my plug in here, having spent 11 years in the United States Navy. The national anthem, probably one of my favorite songs, and of course with all the action that's going on over in the Gulf right now, it would do us all good. This is editorializing, but I feel this way. It would do us all good to stop and reflect on the men and women who are now over in the Gulf. RJ, we'll continue on with the rest of the matchups. I'm not sure if
Why don't we start back over at the beginning here, Troy?
Okay, yeah, we might as well, because I know some of the people might have turned in just a little late. Okay, at 118 pounds, there you see Ted Nelson from UNO. His opposite number, as we said, is the coach of North Dakota State's son, Brett Maughan. Brett is in his senior year. At 126 pounds, for UNO, Mark Bauer, the sophomore out of Kearney. He is sitting at 22-8. He'll be opposite NDSU's Wayne Werner, who's a senior out of Perham, Minnesota. There you see Werner in the North Dakota State green and gold. Of course, the Mavericks of UNO in the red and black. At 134 pounds, a sophomore from Maple Lake, Minnesota at 16-4, Lloyd Wurm. He'll be opposite UNO's Billy Glenn. Bill, of course, a junior out of Fairfield, Iowa. He is 16-13-2. That's at 134 pounds. 142 pounds, a freshman out of Cummings, North Dakota, sitting in Joel Vettel. As I said, he's the freshman. Scott Ruff, a junior from Riverton, Wyoming, will be wrestling for UNO at this weight at 20-2. Now we go to 150 pounds. Mark Miley, and we'll let RJ talk about him a little later as time allows. Miley, this is his first match this year. He's a senior out of Anoka, Minnesota, so he has a record that he has no record at all. His opposite number out of Lincoln for the Mavericks, a junior, Kevin Phelps. He is 7-7. At 158 pounds for the North Dakota State Bison, again, another wrestler out of Maple Lake, Minnesota, has a record of 15-4. Mark Anderson, he is a junior. And for the Mavericks, and there's a lot of tension on both sides of the mat. For the Mavericks, Blake Ford, a junior out of Idaho Falls, Idaho, at 12-7. Moving up to 167 pounds for NDSU, a freshman out of Carrington, Minnesota, has a record of 5-9-1, Lance Koenig. His opposite number from Glenwood, Iowa, the freshman at 19-9, Scott Stogdill. 177 pounds. Sophomore from Fergus Falls, Minnesota. He's 9-5-2, Jeff Ersland. And going against him for the Mavericks, moving his record up to 24-7 after last night, the senior from Pocatello, Idaho, is Jesse Smith. 190 pounds. Brian Nelson, a junior from Cold Spring, Minnesota. He is 7-2 for the Bison. And for the UNO Mavericks, a young man who really made his mark quickly here in his career at UNO, a senior from Green Bay, Wisconsin, at 24-4, Joe Wypiszenski will be wrestling. And we have heavyweights. Tim Tekautz, a sophomore from Hibbing, Minnesota. He's 15-5. And his opposite number for UNO at 9-14, a sophomore from Aurora, Nebraska, will be Dan Carricker. The coaches, of course, for NDSU is Bucky Maughan. As you heard RJ say earlier, they're ranked second in NCAA Division II. And for UNO, Coach Mike Denny, who has the distinction of coaching the #1 wrestling team in NCAA Division II. And for those of us in Omaha and RJ, we've been spoiled as you get a real good look at Coach Denny. We're used to having top-ranked teams or teams ranked to the top. So while this is still nice, and it's always nice to be #1, it's still no surprise, I guess, that the teams are doing that well.
Yeah, that's true. Every year, Coach Denny, after his 12 seasons, he's been in the top 7 for the last 10 straight years. He's been ranked #1 previously, but yet has been yet to win that national title. It's been rather elusive.
Okay, for people who might be watching wrestling for the first time, they had a little toss out there. What does that, is that just like
what that does
in a
is
football game? Or?
Similar. In the second period of each match, one of the wrestlers will have his choice of choosing the top position, the bottom position, or a neutral position.
Okay, there's you get a look at who we're seeing here at 118 pounds. As everybody knows who is familiar with the sport, the first match is real important, and it kind of puts a little extra pressure on the 118-pounders, but I think Teddy Nelson and both Brett Maughan are more than equal to the task.
Yeah, this is going to be a real good match. This is one of those matches that I said could possibly be a toss-up and could go either way. You're looking at Brett Maughan, who was an All-American last year. He is the coach's son. Brett placed 3rd last year in the Nationals. In high school, was a 4-time state champion with a 126-0 record.
It looks like we have a couple of aggressive wrestlers out here. Usually, you'll find one of each. One guy will be a defensive style, the other guy will be aggressive, but they both seem to be aggressive. They go out of bounds, so they have to start over again. Joe Bateman is our official. Joe, of course, out of the District 66 school system.
He's a real experienced referee. I know he also referees a lot of college football. There's a 2-point takedown by Brett Maughan, and he lets Teddy loose for a 1-point escape.
3-minute period of the opening shot.
What you're going to see, Brett Maughan is a type of wrestler who likes to score a lot of points. I saw him earlier in the year, this year at Northern Iowa at a tournament where he lost a decision 19-18. 37 points scored in a match is amazing.
Should all wrestlers be that aggressive in collegiate style wrestling, or does it behoove some guys to be defensive?
What you'll see a lot of times is the more aggressive wrestlers usually are more dominant, but that's not always the case. You'll see a lot of defensive wrestlers that capitalize on their opponent's mistakes quite a bit.
Yeah, we talked about this earlier too, the way they manhandled North Dakota last night. I'm wondering what kind of effect it would have on Mavericks when they come up against a tougher opponent in North Dakota State.
Well, hopefully that big win last night will boost their confidence a little bit. They'll feel a little loose after having one match under their belt this weekend, but it also could have a detriment. They might be a little worn down, a little tired from last night's match.
Okay, Brett Maughan with a 2-1 advantage here because he got that 2-point takedown at the start of this match.
What Teddy Nelson will need to do to win this match is he's going to have to capitalize on his speed. He's a very fast wrestler when he wants to do it. Occasionally he likes to sit back a little bit and wait. If he'll open up here, he'll really be able to take advantage of that speed. He also was a 2-time state champ, so he's no slouch himself.
Yeah, for the smaller guys at 118 pounds, these guys are both muscular guys.
Right. I'm not real sure about Brett Maughan, but I know Teddy Nelson cuts a lot of weight. Comes in a little bit over 130 pounds each week and cuts down to 118 pounds. Sometimes that has an adverse effect on the wrestler as far as his conditioning. You saw the quickness there on Teddy Nelson, but he wasn't able to capitalize and score.
One thing that's true about the guys at this weight, in the lower weights, you blink, you're going to miss something. I mean, they're just so quick.
Very true. He's in again on another single leg. He should be able to finish this. Hasn't got the points yet.
Well, he's got to get him in control.
That's right. He needs to move up off of that leg. The referee won't award the points until he moves up off that leg. He's got about 15 seconds to do it. And the referee called a stalemate there. That's a situation where neither wrestler can advance his position, so they kill the action and start him up again.
Actually, that was a good defensive tactic by Brett to cause that stalemate, because very easily on that leg chase like that, the advantage could very well go with the aggressive wrestler, or the offensive wrestler in this point.
Right, a situation like that where he has no choice, he should be looking to try to get that stalemate, get into a position where Teddy cannot improve his position.
Okay, that's the end of the first period. You might have heard the buzzer. Don't forget there's ride time involved in this. For people who don't understand what ride time is, the wrestler who has the highest amount of time in ride time will get an extra point at the end of the match. And sometimes that can make a difference.
He has to have at least, the wrestler must have at least 1 minute advantage to get that point. Right now, looks like Brett Maughan has 3 seconds of riding time, so he's got a little ways to go.
So I guess ride time, why don't you go ahead, you're the official, you're the expert on this. Define ride time for people who might not know what that is.
The wrestler on top must be in control. As right now Teddy Nelson's in control, he's the top wrestler. He's building up riding time right now. Now he's back up. Teddy Nelson has 10 seconds of riding time. As Teddy Nelson builds his riding time, they take away Brett Maughan's riding time.
Well, Teddy, you can tell he's trying to get the advantage, and there he got Brett off his feet, but that's not quite what he wanted.
Now you see there, he let him go intentionally. Teddy likes to wrestle a lot more on his feet. Not necessarily sure if that's a good idea since he got taken down in the first period already.
So Maughan gets an escape point for that. Now it's 3-1 in favor of Brett Maughan. And as you heard RJ say, Ted let him go, and sometimes that'll work to the advantage of the wrestler who lets his opponent get the escape point.
Right. Wrestlers tend to have a style. A wrestler might be a wrestler that likes to wrestle down on the mat. He might like to wrestle a lot more on his feet. Teddy is one of these wrestlers that likes to be on his feet a lot more, feels more confident in that position, and is more confident with his ability on takedowns.
I would think that would go with a guy who really feels good about his balance too.
Right, his balance, his speed. You see there, Brett Maughan tried to work a little bit more of the upper body techniques. Teddy Nelson isn't much known for his upper body technique. He's a lot more a leg attack wrestler.
You know, and it looks like Brett might have read the book on Teddy too, because now that he's got that 3-1 lead, that's really working to his advantage, because he's got all these options that are open to him.
Right. They have wrestled in the past, and Brett Maughan has beat Teddy. So
Okay, North Dakota State at this point, as you see, Brett Maughan just picked up 2 more points on a takedown, so that will put North Dakota State up 5-1 at this point. Brett Maughan leads 5-1.
It looks like on the scoreboard they may have the score actually wrong. The home team is usually green. In this case, they've put North Dakota State in the green and UNO in the red.
Maybe because of the school colors.
Yeah,
I don't know. But you're right.
They had a problem with that last night in the match also. I don't know if they're going to change that after this match or not. But as of right now, North Dakota State will be green and UNO will be red. Now that was a caution or a false start, similar to track and field. A wrestler is allowed 2 false starts before he's penalized 1 point.
So
I didn't see who got the false start that time. I think they both had 1 caution so far.
And something also to people who might not be familiar with watching this style of wrestling, there will be a dangerous hold given, and there's also a stalling warning given also if the referee feels the wrestlers aren't quite trying to advance.
Right. Now we're going into the 3rd period here. Teddy Nelson's down 5-1. Riding time isn't a factor. He's going to take the down position and hope to get at least an escape, possibly a reversal for 2 points. He's really going to have to open up here if he wants to win this match.
Yeah,
Brett Maughan, on the other hand, can sit back a little bit.
Yeah, he doesn't have a long time to do this, so now we have a stoppage in play as the official. I think, you know what, I think Bucky Maughan's come over, and I think Bucky is questioning the scoreboard also.
Right.
And as RJ,
I imagine they're probably going to change it after this match.
Yeah, as RJ explained, usually the home team is in green on the scoreboard and the visitors are in red, but today they have it flip-flopped, and the only thing I can think is because of the school colors.
There's another caution on red. Now I'm confused whether or not he's calling that caution on the bottom man or on the top man. According to the scoreboard, that would be on bottom man Teddy Nelson, because he held up his left hand. You'll notice the referees in the last couple of years have started to wear the green and red wristbands to help the score table distinguish the points.
There's the start again, but as
Brett
RJ
Maughan
said,
he can sit back a little bit now. Since he's got a lead, he can almost put it on cruise control. But he can't get too careless because the referee will. Oh, there's a quick takedown by Teddy Nelson. Right there you saw his quickness.
Teddy Nelson just picked up 3 quick points, 1 on an escape and 2 on that takedown, and now he's just behind by a point.
Now he let him go. What he's going to try to do is take him down and let him up and build the 2-1 advantage every time he releases him.
Well, now Brett Maughan leads at 6-4 after that given escape point. We have about 1 minute and 20 seconds left to go in this 118-pound match. The opening match between number 1 UNO and number 2 North Dakota State. And this is also a conference duel. I mean, all kinds of implications and intertwining here.
Right, this is a big match for both wrestlers as far as seeding in the conference tournament as well as the national tournament. You're looking at Brett Maughan right now, who's ranked 2nd in the country. Teddy is not ranked. If he can pull an upset here, that'll really help his seedings in the tournament. Obviously, you want to be the number 1 seeded wrestler in a tournament. It gives you a little easier ride to the finals.
Right. It makes it an awful long tournament if you're not ranked or ranked low.
Right.
Okay, we've got under 1 minute to go in this match. Teddy Nelson still trailing Brett Maughan 6-4.
There's absolutely 0 riding time, so that's not going to be a factor in this match. Takedown here would tie the match up if Teddy Nelson was able to ride him. You'll see, though, Brett Maughan isn't getting defensive. He came right in on that leg attack, keeping on the offense. You start getting defensive, you can get yourself in trouble.
Yeah, that's especially if you're used to being an aggressive wrestler.
I imagine we're going to see a stalemate out of this position right here. I don't think either wrestler, there it is. Either wrestler could improve this position.
33 seconds left to go in the match. It's still within reach of Teddy Nelson for UNO, but Brett Maughan doing an excellent job to maintain his 6-4 lead.
Yeah, he's a senior. He knows, he's been around. He knows what he's doing. You know, he knows how to protect that lead a little bit.
There you see Teddy going for his strength, the leg, but he couldn't quite get to it. 20 seconds to go in the match.
You see Teddy Nelson, he's not opening up like he should be. With 20 seconds left, you can't be sitting back and waiting. He's got to get after it. And Brett Maughan doesn't have to go after anything. He can sit back and wait.
Well, Coach Denny immediately got up and was encouraging Ted to move. Less than 10 seconds
There's an attempt
go.
at a throw. No points scored. Still no points scored. Out of bounds with 2 seconds. I think that's going to be the end of it.
That's going to be tough for Ted. He's going to have to just pick him up and put him down real quickly. And all Brett has to do is back up. That's it.
There it is. A 3-point decision for the team score for North Dakota State. Like I said, Tori, that was a match that I thought was a toss-up, and it proved to be pretty close.
Well, Brett Maughan has come away with a 6-4 win over Ted Nelson at 118 pounds. So the first match goes to the visiting North Dakota State second-ranked Bison. And as RJ said, they'll get the 3 team points. While we have the time, why don't we go ahead and go down how the teams get their points as far as like a major decision and all that sort of thing.
If two wrestlers tie or draw in a match, it is 2 points for each team. If there is a decision by 7 points or less, it's 3 team points for the winning team. A decision of 8 to 14 points is a major decision, which results in 4 points for that team. A technical fall is a win by 15 or more points, which results in 5 points, and they'll also stop the match once the wrestler gets ahead by 15. If a wrestler is pinned or the fall occurs, it's 16 points. So obviously you want to go for the big points. Especially in a close match like this, it might come down to who has the most big wins.
And you saw 2 wrestlers at 126 pounds, and this will be another good one. Mark upped his record to 22-8 last night with his win against North Dakota. The Mavericks won 7 out of 10 matches last night. They were just on fire.
Yeah. North Dakota, the team that they beat last night, was the number 6 ranked team in the country and also probably 4th ranked in the conference. You're looking at a conference that 5 out of the 8 teams in the conference are ranked in the top 10 in the nationals.
If that doesn't say something to the people nationally involved in collegiate wrestling, because year in and year out, the North Central Conference is always that good.
Yes, they dominate every year at the national tournament. They may not necessarily win the tournament, but they usually have 2 or 3 teams right there in the top 5. A few years ago, right here in this field house, North Dakota State beat UNO by just a few points to win the national tournament. Coach Bucky Maughan's first national title in his 27 years at North Dakota. Mark Bauer has been a real pleasant surprise for UNO this year. He's a sophomore out of Kearney and has really come on strong. They didn't expect him to be this strong, and he's done real well. Wayne Werner, on the other hand, last year was the NCC runner-up. So, again, 2 quality wrestlers right out here.
Well, so far, they both just seem to be feeling each other out at this point. It's rather been a little vanilla match, but a few flashes of aggressiveness, but pretty much they both appear as if they like stand-up wrestling.
Well, it's still pretty early in the match. We just haven't had the opportunity to score takedown yet. I was a little surprised to see Wayne Werner's a senior, and his record's only 1-4. I don't know if he's been injured or if he's just been sitting out part of the year or what, but he's a quality wrestler. He's been around a long time. His older brother Steve, was an All-American for North Dakota State a few years back.
Well, Mark tried a maneuver that almost got him in trouble there, because he ended up having his knees on the mat but his back to his opponent. That's a scary position to be in.
Yeah, Mark Bauer, he's aggressive though, and you like to see that. I'd much rather see a wrestler go out there and be aggressive and try a move and maybe get caught and get in trouble once in a while than sit back and not try nothing.
Yeah, the leg sweep that you just saw Werner try is really one of the basic fundamental moves of wrestling, collegiate wrestling, but so many times you can get caught on it if you're the opponent, if you don't move quick enough or have your balance distributed, and that's one reason why the move is so popular.
Right. I'll tell you what, you'll see, the higher level of competition you get, moving up from 6-year-old kids to the college-age kids, the more basic it gets, the higher you get. You don't see a lot of flashy moves because they just don't work in college wrestling. The basic, single leg takedowns, double leg takedowns, those are what work the best. Right there, you saw Mark Bauer get a takedown with a pretty basic move, ducked right under the arm.
And he got 2 points for that. So now Mark with a 2-0 lead over Werner.
Now what he's going to try to do here, he'll try to ride him out for this last 30 seconds of the match. He's not going to want to let him go. He doesn't want to give a cheap point at the end of the match, or at the end of the period, excuse me. What you saw there, Mark Bauer started on top in an international style, the freestyle start style on top. That's a new rule in the last few years of college wrestling. What you'll see gradually over the years, college wrestling is moving a little closer and a little closer to freestyle, the international style, which is used in the Olympics.
Right. I can understand why they're doing that, just to make things a little bit more even.
Personally, I'd like to see freestyle wrestling in the United States in college. It would make the United States a lot more competitive when it comes to the Olympics and World Championships. And he did an excellent job there riding him out. Built up 37 seconds of riding time. Now he's got a real advantage going in. A lot of times what you'll see, that first takedown's real important. The guy will get that first takedown. A lot of times that builds his confidence and even break his opponent.
Is there an advantage for some wrestlers to be the down wrestler sometimes?
Yes, there is, especially in the college level. it's pretty tough to turn an opponent. You know, you're coming up against guys that are excellent wrestlers that just don't get turned to their back that often. So it's an easy point. You know, right there, you saw how quick Mark Bauer got out with no problem whatsoever.
And he gets a point for that. So now it's 3-0, Bauer over Werner. And they're out of bounds, so they'll come back. But, oh, Mark's holding his neck, back of his neck.
It doesn't look like they're going to attend to him at all.
Probably just got that occupational hazard crick in the neck, that bloody noses and twisted muscles. I mean, if you're going to wrestle, that's what you have to expect, I guess.
I'll tell you, you talk about bloody noses. Mark Bauer has a younger brother, Andrew, that also wrestles on the UNO team. I think he gets a bloody nose the minute he walks in the field house. I don't know if it's the altitude or what, but he is a bleeder.
Sacrifice your blood for the team. Good balance by Bauer. Well, I tell you, there was an awful lot of pressure being put on his head and his neck by Werner there. Mark
occasionally
able to just work out of it.
Yeah, you'll see an opponent, your opponent gets hurt, and that almost becomes a target for you. You know, the guy's got a bunged up knee. You take advantage of that.
Well,
you know,
yeah,
that's part of the sport.
That's right. And I think your opponent would realize that also. It's not considered in any means by being unsportsmanlike or unfair. That's the part of the sport that muscular, but he does leg work really well.
I'll tell you, the biggest thing about your leg strength is the conditioning of your legs. You know, you always hear athletes say the legs are the first to go once you get tired. And it's real important in wrestling your legs are in good shape, because you start standing straight up and down, you're a target. You're sitting duck for single and double leg takedowns. That's why a wrestler always wants to stay in that good low position, and that comes from getting those legs in shape, spend a lot of time running, a lot of time on the bike. Werner's in on a single leg here. 30 seconds left. Bauer doesn't. Oh, there he gave up the takedown. That ties it up 3-3, Tori, with about 20 seconds left. Bauer wants to get out of bounds so they can get back and get a fresh start in the middle.
You know, I think you know, that caught Mark by surprise, because he was going for both legs on Werner. And the next thing you know, Werner's got one of Mark's legs up off the mat.
That's an excellent technique for a wrestler to use. Like you said, Werner countered Mark's shot with another shot. Wrestlers have a tendency, they'll make an offensive move and then they'll relax for a second. If you can capitalize on that, you can be... Okay, they're going to bring up a replay here of that throw while we're sitting here on an injury timeout. Mark Bauer looks like he might have got a hip pointer.
And they will run the clock on this, too. Here you go.
And here comes that throw. He's got the hands locked. He's going to step in right there and foot propped him for the throw. Block that foot to keep Werner from able to step out. Now Mark Bauer has 23 seconds in which to get the escape, and riding time's not going to be a factor in this match. Werner's probably just going to try to hang on for the tie.
Well, Mark came down on that takedown. He came down awfully hard on his left hip and immediately grabbed
Almost looked like there was a caution there on Werner, but the referee didn't call it.
Good job by Werner not to let
really
Mark
staying
go.
tough. Really got a good lift out of that to get Bauer off of his feet. Now he's got the legs in. There's not much chance he's going to get out in 10 seconds once the legs are stuck in there.
And that's all Werner wants to do. Werner checked the clock.
Once again, Bauer goes out of bounds trying to get that fresh start back in the middle. Individual, when I said he puts his legs in, he interlaces his legs with his opponent's legs. And it's a good riding technique.
Well, there's 3 seconds, probably less than 3 seconds. We don't have tenths of seconds on the clock, but I would imagine there's less than 3 seconds to go in this period.
There it is. It's a draw, Tori.
Bauer almost snuck out of there. Almost got loose.
That's a match that I was expecting Mark Bauer to win that match. He's been coming on real strong. But like I said, Wayne Werner has been around a while. He's currently ranked 5th in the country. Bauer's yet to be ranked. You know, he's come in here. He wasn't a starter last year, so he's a little bit of a no-name at this point. But I expect him to come on real strong at the end of the year.
So it ends in, as you heard RJ say, it ends in that draw. And North Dakota State now leads in the team totals 5-2. Both wrestlers get a pair of points for that. Here we go at 134 pounds. Billy Glenn, you see, for UNO, and Lloyd Wurm. And the Bison, of course, have that sophomore going against a junior. Billy Glenn, he's pretty entertaining to watch out of Fairfield, Iowa.
Yeah, he gets in some interesting scrambles once in a while. Billy transferred to UNO, started out his career at the University of Iowa, and I don't need to tell you what the University of Iowa wrestling's like.
Oh, they're not bad.
And their coach isn't bad either, right?
Yeah, Dan, what's his name?
Yeah,
Dan Gable. He's only been in the Olympic program for so long. But
this is going to be another match that I expect to be pretty close. Billy Glenn is a wrestler that's hard to score on. He's very defensive. If he can open up a little bit, is what's going to be important for him to do here today and get a little more offensively. But Lloyd Wurm is currently ranked 6th in the country. He's having a real good year. You see his record there, 16-4. You'll see Lloyd Wurm's from Maple Lake, Minnesota. He's another state champ on this team. North Dakota State, out of their 10 starters, 8 of them were state champs in high school. And that's amazing. That is amazing.
That's Bucky Maughan wrestling, boy, I'll tell you.
And like I said, he's from Minnesota. You're going to see a lot of the wrestlers today are from Minnesota. The reason for that, Minnesota and North Dakota universities have reciprocal tuition, meaning they can both pay in-state tuition either side. So Bucky Maughan recruits quite a bit over in Minnesota.
Well, it hasn't hurt him.
No.
I tell you, folks, you're seeing two of the best college wrestling teams in the country going at it head-to-head.
There's a good scramble. He's in pretty deep on the legs. It looked like Billy Glenn gave that one up a little bit. He should have fought a little more, tried to maybe get out of bounds. He's in a position now where he's got to get his legs out of there. Otherwise, and Wurm's going for the turn here. He's got those legs turned. Billy was able to turn through and roll through the other direction.
Right. Well, it's 2-point takedown anyway for Wurm, so he leads it 2-0 over Bill Glenn in this 134-pound match. Yeah, I think Billy was a little surprised by what happened. It seemed like, you're right, he tried another thing, and it just gave Wurm the opportunity to take him down. And again, the biggest thing about jumping out early, especially in wrestling like this, is it leaves your options, gives you so many more options.
Right. It's so hard to come back from a big deficit. You'll see a lot of wrestlers will go out and get that 5 or 6 point lead and kind of sit on it. And it's just really tough to come back on a good wrestler because they are so tough defensively. Lloyd Wurm is really tough on top here, and the reason for that, he's not just out there trying to ride him. He's out there trying to turn his opponent, therefore keeping his opponent on the defense while he's on the bottom. And you'll see a good rider is tough on top with trying to turn the opponent rather than just hanging on.
Well, right now, Wurm has the ride time as the clock continuing to run, and he's got over a minute ride time, which is good because you build it up. If your opponent starts to get ride time, as RJ said earlier, they subtract it off yours, so you get over a minute, and you can make it tough. And it is a point. And in a close match, as we said, it can make a big difference.
Still pretty early to say right now whether that's going to make a difference in this match. 14 seconds left in the first period here. Be real important for Billy Glenn to get an escape.
You know, Billy seems to be out of sync, RJ. He just doesn't, I don't know what it's not that he's not trying. It just seems like he isn't quite in step with what he wants to accomplish. And I don't know if you call it a mini slump or whatever, or being able to adapt to your opponent, but he's going to have to come around quickly. Because Wurm, as you said, Wurm's just going after it.
Yeah, you see here, he's going for another turn. It looks like he might get, nope.
Didn't get the angle. Didn't get the angle.
Time ran out. I thought he was going to get some back points there.
So the first period is over, and Wurm has compiled 1 minute 35 seconds of ride time. He has a 2-0 lead over Bill Glenn via the 2-point takedown earlier in this period.
I believe North Dakota State has chosen down in this period. Wurm's going to take the bottom position. When it comes to Billy Glenn's choice, after getting ridden for 1 minute 35, I don't think it'd be too wise to take down again.
Now, I think at this juncture, even though it's still early, well, there's the 1 point escape for Wurm, so now it's 3-0. But I felt that maybe that 1 point might be too much for Billy to give up at this point.
Yeah, he needed to ride him a little bit more and get that riding time down below 1 minute. Now he's going to have to take him down, and he didn't have any success with that in the first period. Let's see if we can do anything different here.
We're at 134 pounds as Billy Glenn goes for the legs. A nice counter by Wurm, and now they both up again in a 2-point wrestling situation, standing up.
Neither wrestler is being real offensive at this point. Especially, I think Billy Glynn's really going to have to open up. He's really going to have to try something because, like I said, you get that deficit, and it's hard to come back, and you can't do it by being defensively. You've got to go out and get after it. This is where Billy ought to be able to score from this position. Lloyd Wurm took a bad shot, had his head down, and got caught in a bad position, but Billy didn't capitalize on that.
Yeah,
he didn't take advantage of that.
You got to make that quick turnaround and get control for the
That's one thing that I know the UNO coaches have been working a lot with the wrestlers. They need to start scoring more defensively as well as offensively. You know, in that same situation, a wrestler takes a bad shot like that, you have to be able to capitalize on his mistake.
And you can't hesitate, and I think that's what did Bill in. He hesitated just enough where Wurm was able to get his balance back. I should make mention, ladies and gentlemen, RJ has not left wrestling alone. He is part of Mike Denny's coaching staff here and graciously has agreed to help me with this broadcast. We did it together last time also, and RJ's been a great help. He's helped me learn this sport tremendously. Well, Wurm tried. He tried that flip around. He
tried that arm drag there, but wasn't able to get around. Billy stayed in good position, didn't allow it.
Bucky Maughan, you can't see it, but Bucky Maughan came out on the mat at the end of the period, and he's encouraging Wurm, letting him know, you know, it was there. You had the right idea. You just got to execute it. But you're right. I think Billy Glenn did a good job to get that shoulder up to prevent it.
As a wrestler, I think Coach Maughan is someone that I would listen to. Like I said, he's in his 27th season at North Dakota State. He's the dean of college wrestling.
He loves it too, man. I'm telling you, this guy is something else.
He's also a 3-time national champ in college.
Well, I met him when UNO hosted the Division II Nationals. He's a super individual. Coming down to about a minute and a half to go, and the action is really getting furious. Close to being out of bounds. Referee Bateman says they're inbounds. Now they're out of bounds. You might have noticed, and it's ironic because North Dakota State's colors are green and gold. The NDSU wrestlers all wear, it looks like it's a yellow ankle band or yellow sock, and that is in memory of the troops over in the Persian Gulf. And I think we all know at least one person who's gone over there.
I think that's real impressive on their part. I've seen a lot of teams across the country, not only in wrestling, but in basketball and other sports that have been wearing American flags, yellow ribbons. There's a 2-point takedown for Billy Glenn that makes the score 3-2, but he still has to work that riding time off, and he let him go. He thinks he can beat him on his feet, so he's going to have to score 2 more takedowns to win this match.
So now it's 4-2. Wurm leads 4-2 after that escape point.
You see Wurm blocking off there. He's trying to be a little bit defensive. Keep Billy from getting the inside position to score those takedowns.
You know, you look at him, and Bill's whole attitude now has changed all of a sudden.
Yeah, he's picked up the pace. And
that's right.
The problem is it might be too little too late. I wish I would have seen him do this, you know, from the opening whistle rather than wait until he's behind.
Half a minute to go. Glenn trying to work on that legs, but Wurm again doing a good job defensively.
He's also keeping Billy at the edge of the mat. A smart wrestler will wrestle right up there at the edge. Coach Maughan kind of made a wisecrack to me today that I wrestled a little bit too much on the edge.
Yeah, but I mean that's a good tactic because it only gives your opponent one way that he can take it.
And if you get in trouble, you can always get out of bounds.
That's right.
I always like to wrestle on the edge just because of the fact that your opponent also tends to relax a little bit out there because he feels confident that he can get out of bounds. You can score a lot of takedowns out there. Well, there's another victory for North Dakota State, giving them an 8-2 team lead.
So he wins the match. Wurm wins the match 4-2, and it's 3 more team points for North Dakota State. So after the first 3 matches, the UNO Mavericks find themselves trailing North Dakota State at their own field house by a score of 8-2.
I'll put a wager on this next one with you, Tori.
Well, I'll tell you, you know, it's so easy to want to go with the upperclassmen, and of course Scott Ruff out of Rivington, Wyoming, the junior for UNO at 142 pounds. Look at that record, 20-2. Joel Vettel is a freshman, 9-11. You know, I saw him walking around earlier. I even got to talk to him a little bit. He's really confident. I'll tell you,
I guess he's going out there with that attitude, nothing to lose.
Well, I'm glad I'm not out there now against Ruff. I'll tell you that.
I think Scott Ruff right now is the best wrestler on the UNO team. He's been hurt the last couple weeks. He's just getting back this weekend, so he's a little bit hungry. His conditioning's a little bit off due to he had an ankle injury. His ankle's still a little tender. Last night he had to take a few injury timeouts because of it, so his conditioning isn't where he wants it to be, but I think he's going to start peaking here for the national tournament. This shows his record is 20-2. Actually, he has not been defeated by an opponent yet this year. One of those defeats came with an injury default because of his ankle. The other one came, he was disqualified at a tournament beginning of the year, his first match of the year. When I was talking earlier about the match getting out of hand, some guys got to be pushing and shoving.
That's right.
Yeah. Scott doesn't like guys pushing and shoving, and he pulled a fist up, and the referee had a double disqualification. So he's actually 20-0.
Well, if memory serves me correctly, his opponent was John at him a little bit, talking some trash.
Yeah.
And then he pushed Scott. Scott said, "Okay, I'll push you back."
Scott Ruff's a dominant wrestler in every phase. He's tough on his feet, he's tough on top, and he's quick out of the bottom.
Well, I'm telling you, this freshman Vettel, he came out aggressively. He's kept it up now for a minute.
He looks like he's a strong wrestler. He's got a real good build.
Yeah, here we have
There's a move out of bounds, doesn't count for any points.
Here's where we have what I call a Mutt and Jeff situation. Okay, you look at Scott. Scott is tall, he has long legs. Vettel is short, compact, and I've had people tell me, RJ, that in a lot of situations the long wrestler has an advantage just because of the fulcrum difference in the balance. I don't know.
Yeah,
if that's
he has a
true.
little bit more leverage in a sense. I was talking earlier about wrestlers using their legs when they're on top. Wrestlers like to call them leggers. Where that name came from, I don't know. But you'll see a tall, long wrestler use his legs quite a bit to his advantage. You're right. This Vettel, he's not backing away at any means. He's going right at Ruff. Ruff's having a little difficulty getting inside on him. Vettel's keeping good position at all times.
Yeah, they go out of bounds again on the far side, right in front of the UNO wrestling bench.
We're a little more than halfway through the first period with no points yet. There has been some action, but it's been limited and it's been mostly out of bounds. There's an attempt by Vettel. Again, a lot of times you'll see a wrestler take an attempt like that. It's more or less a fake, a half shot, trying to set something else up.
See, here's where the length, here's where the long legs and I think the height difference has to favor Scott Ruff, because it's really tough for Vettel to get inside on him and get those legs.
Right. Scott Ruff was a two-time JUCO All-American, junior college All-American, as well as he was a national runner-up in junior college and a national champion in junior college. Last year he was an All-American for UNO, placing third, just losing to the national champ by 1 point in the semifinals.
Yeah, now we've got about 35 seconds left to go as, again, they go out of bounds and they'll have to come back to the middle, and referee Joe Bateman will set them up as they go.
Scott Ruff's currently ranked #1 in the country at 142 pounds in the Division II Nationals. This is a situation, I know you know a few years back, Division II wrestlers were able to qualify for the Division I Nationals by winning the Division II National Tournament. Since that time, they've changed that rule and they do not allow it anymore. And it's real sad to see, because you see a wrestler here like Scott Ruff who could very easily compete in that Division I level and possibly place in that Division I tournament.
Well, right here at UNO, some of the people that would have hurt would have been you, Mark Rigattuso,
Joe Wypiszenski, who's wrestling later on this afternoon.
Brad Hildebrand, you know, and then I remember that one young man from, was it Johnstown? Carlton Hasselrig.
Carlton Hasselrig, a heavyweight who won the Division III title, or Division II title 3 times, and went on to win the Division I title 3 times also.
That's right.
He's playing football right now for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
That's incredible. Well, the period is over, and there are goose eggs everywhere. North Dakota State still leads the team totals 8-2. There you see it. Scott Ruff, no points. Joe Vettel, none, but both pretty aggressive non-point scoring period, if you ask me.
Scott Ruff chooses down in this period. You'll see him get out right away. I don't think this Vettel should be able to ride him. Vettel, though, he was another one of those state champs that I was talking about on the North Dakota State team. There's Ruff right up to his feet right away.
Yeah, it looks like Scott's in control, even though he's, yeah, there's the point.
What he's got to avoid at this point is not get frustrated, because he can't score on this guy. he gets frustrated, he could get himself in a little trouble. He'll start trying moves that he shouldn't be trying just to score some points. He needs to take his time, relax, and things will open up for him as the match goes on.
Scott Ruff taking a 1-0 lead over Vettel on the escape point. And I think in this situation where they're both up, I think things are pretty even. But when Vettel is down, Scott has a decided advantage. You saw that just in the last escape point.
I was talking earlier about the top man trying to turn his opponent when he's on top rather than just hanging on for the riding time. He just warned Scott Ruff for stalling. I don't understand that call. He says Scott Ruff is just backing away. That was not a real good shot by Scott Ruff. Like I said, he's getting a little frustrated. He might try to start forcing things.
Is it tough for a wrestler to discipline himself in the middle of a match like that about the frustration and then trying things you shouldn't?
Yeah, it is. It's really tough. You know, especially you got a Scott Ruff who's ranked #1 in the country. And a lot of times wrestlers will come out and they'll stall on you. They'll run from you a little bit. And not that Vettel's actually running from him, but he really hasn't opened up and tried anything in this match. He's basically been real defensive, real tentative. And that gets real frustrating. A smart wrestler has to keep his head through that. There's a nice shot. He can come up and finish it.
He's got to get control.
Vettel is able to get out of bounds and stretch out Scott on that position.
I have never seen in my life in any sport, and I've watched them basketball, football, whatever, more coaching done from the bench than in collegiate wrestling. It's incredible.
You know, there is quite a bit, and unfortunately it doesn't help at all. You know, it's not like football where a coach can send a play in and that's what the team runs. You know, you'll see a lot of these coaches will be out here, he's telling the wrestler to do a move, and 99% of them never hear a word.
I don't think I've ever seen Bucky sit down either. The whole time I've been watching the wrestling, he's come in the field house where I've seen.
And that has a lot to do with who he's wrestling today, because I saw him earlier this year at a tournament, and he sat up in the bleachers, didn't talk to any of his team for the whole first half of the tournament until they got down into the finals and, you know, real tough matches. So he goes back and forth. Ruff's in on a good shot here. He's got 10 seconds to try and finish it. I don't know if he's going to do it. Vettel's going for that stalemate position.
Well, he had him up off. He's trying to break that angle with his shoulders, but the time has run out. But good run by Scott Ruff. Scott is just, he's frustrated.
Yeah, he's really keeping the pressure on, but Vettel is tough defensively. You saw there, he just kept his hands locked around Ruff's waist, keeping Ruff unable to score. 1-0. This is a closer match than I expected. I'm glad we didn't put a bet on it.
Yeah, but hey, wait a minute. I couldn't bet against you. I know they'd run me out of town.
I wouldn't tell anybody.
Well, I know. But the way I've picked on you,
there's a caution on the top man, Scott Ruff.
And now Joe Bateman is going to explain to Scott exactly why he called what he called. And I think that's important because it's a learning process,
right.
too.
A lot of times a referee will make a call and a wrestler doesn't know what he did wrong. He'll come right back and do the same thing again. You'll see Ruff's changing to the other side at this point. That's a mental thing there. You know, opponent starts to think, well, he's going to start on my right side. I'm going to do this move or that move. And then all of a sudden you jump over to the other side and it totally throws his game plan off.
Look at the leverage being shown by Vettel. That is just incredible. Stalemate. If you could give points for creating a stalemate, I'd have to give Vettel a point. He did an excellent job because Scott was ready to roll him over.
That's about the third stalemate he's called today. I'm glad they're not giving points for those.
Yeah.
There's a lift by Ruff, getting him back down flat. What you want to do, the most important thing, is you got to keep that opponent flat. You see he's getting up on his base here, on his hands and his feet, and that's where he can get an escape from. We're going to get another stalemate position out of this, I think. Now Ruff broke him back down.
I would think, though, if I was Scott and Vettel gets up on his base like that, I would be concerned.
He's got a cradle locked up right now. He might get a little loose. No, he's going to get him. He's going to get near fall point. Oh, he may not be able to turn him over. He still has it locked. He still has it locked on. If he can turn him over with this, he'll get at least 2 points near fall.
Over a minute to go in this period.
He's also building up riding time. Scott Ruff's got 50 seconds right now. He'll build up that minute of riding time. Once he gets that riding time, I wouldn't be surprised to see him let him go and work from his feet. But again, like I said, Scott Ruff likes to work on top. He likes to turn his opponent.
Well, Vettel just won't give him that angle. Scott has done just about everything technically correct, and he can't get the angle. Oh, man, that's got to look at Vettel.
Looks like Vettel's cramping up a little bit there in his calf. A lot of times that'll come from weight cutting. You dehydrate yourself a little bit.
Still 1-0 with Scott Ruff leading Joel Vettel. And
he does have the minute of riding time now.
But I think Scott's probably more just as surprised as everybody else. Not that he took his opponent lightly, but
this guy's given a good battle today, real good battle. He's done his job. I'm sure North Dakota State didn't expect to win this match, but they wanted to keep it close. A lot of times that's what a guy's job is, to go out there and keep it close rather than not get pinned and give up the big win. He's got that cradle locked on again. I'd like to see him get a turn out of it. I don't imagine Scott Ruff's going to be happy with this win. I think he wanted a bigger win. Oh, he's getting himself in trouble.
Oh,
Vettel's
what a
able to get an
move.
escape. Scott Ruff just, like I said, he got frustrated and he tried some careless moves there and got himself a little trouble. Fortunately, he had the whereabouts to get out and not give up the 2-point reversal.
There you saw the
There it is. It's 1-1 on the scoreboard, but Scott Ruff has 1 minute and 44 riding time, so he will get the victory 2-1.
Well, there you saw the inexperience of the freshman, though, Vettel, because as soon as he escaped, he didn't come right back in with the time running down. But the Mavericks win on that match. Scott Ruff does by a score of 2-1, and that'll give UNO 3 more team points to none for North Dakota State. So that now moves UNO within 3 points of North Dakota State at 8-5. I'll tell you, I was impressed with Vettel. He really impressed me.
Like I said, he did his job. He probably wasn't expecting to win. And he went out there and kept it close. He didn't give up a big loss, which could be important. There's a team score. You'll see 8-5. North Dakota State is ahead. Here comes a match with 2 guys that haven't wrestled very much at all this year. You got Kevin Phelps, who's 7-7, a junior. He's been out with several injuries, and Mark Miley, like you said, we'd talk about him later. He's 0-0, had a disc removed from his back earlier this year. So this is his first time out. Conditioning, I would say, is going to be to the advantage of Phelps, but he hasn't wrestled that much either, so I can't give the advantage to either wrestler.
What a way to debut in your wrestling season. Conference matchup against the #1 team in the country. But North Dakota State, as we've said several times already, known for great wrestling programs.
You're also seeing 2 All-Americans matched up here. Kevin Phelps back in 1989 placed 7th in the Nationals, and Mark Miley placed 3rd as a freshman. Mark Miley got in on a low single there. That's one thing. Kevin Phelps is what we like to call an upper body wrestler. Likes to throw a lot, likes to wrestle in the upper body, so he's going to have to watch his legs. Mark Miley, he keeps using that low single. Kevin Phelps could be in a little bit of trouble.
So with a 2-point takedown, again, the North Dakota State wrestler, this time, Miley, jumps out to a 2-0 lead. We've just finished the first minute of this match. Miley trying to work around as Phelps is using his legs to try to ward off any attempts at turning him over.
They're going to go out of bounds there, so Kelvin get back for a fresh start in the middle. Miley, another one of those state champs from Minnesota, wrestling for North Dakota State.
Anoka, Minnesota. Miley with the 2-0 lead. We're at 150 pounds, as you see. Not a bad sized crowd, considering all the other wrestling that's going on.
Right, a lot of high school matches going on today. Wrestling crowd is the only crowd that, it's that sport. There's not not very many basketball fans that come to watch a wrestling match. It's usually just a wrestling crowd. So if they're watching a high school match somewhere else.
It's a good sport. It's definitely one-on-one confrontation. There's power, there's speed, there's agility, a lot of action. Now Kevin has gone into his super defensive mode here. He really hasn't had much of a choice.
He needs to open up. He can't sit down there on the bottom. Not only is he allowing Miley to build up riding time, but he's also working on his conditioning. He's getting tired down there on bottom. It's tiring. It wears on you to sit there on the bottom and have this guy working on you trying to pin you all for 2.5 minutes.
Over 1.5 minutes riding time built up by Miley.
You see Kevin Phelps has got tape all over his body.
And we'd like to thank those of you who are watching this on KYNE TV. Production crew, Jim Langdon, director, Gary Repair also involved. It's always a pleasure to work with these people. Boy, there's some flurry of an action there. Good job by Phelps.
Good job by both wrestlers. He spun. That was his move initially, to spin out of there, kind of a Granby roll. But Miley did a good job of following through and keeping on top. 36 seconds left here in the first period. Kevin hasn't had much success getting out of the bottom.
2-0 lead for Miley.
I was starting to say, Kevin's got a lot of tape on his body. He's had several different injuries this year that has kept him out of action. His teammates have given him a nickname of Greg LeMond because he spends more time on the exercise bike than the wrestling mat. They tell him he's riding in the Tour de Training room.
Tour de Training room. That's great. Oh, and Miley.
He probably won't be happy if he heard I said that.
Well,
there's an escape for Kevin Phelps. That should be 1 point. There it is. Joe Bateman awarding the 1 point escape. That was real important for Kevin to get that.
Well, he's drawn. He's all right. There's the whole thing.
It looks like Miley's walking a little gingerly. Either that or he's just out of shape.
So now they're going to start the injury clock. Now the trainer comes out, and well, as we said, Miley has had a disc removed out of his back. And of course, he wouldn't come back if he wasn't healthy enough to do it. But as RJ said, I mean, there's a whole lot of energy and a lot of stamina is involved in what we're seeing here today.
As far as injury time goes, a wrestler is allowed 1 minute and 30 seconds of injury time per match. He's also only allowed 3 times in the stop of the action for injuries. So if he has to stop, if it gets stopped the 4th time, he's disqualified.
That's the match.
That's a rule that's changed recently also. It used to be a wrestler had 3 minutes of injury time.
So the period's over, and
UNO had the choice
here.
Lead. UNO had the choice there, and he deferred it. He deferred the choice so he could have the choice in the 3rd period. And Miley takes the bottom position. You'll see Mark Miley has 2 minutes and 14 seconds of riding time. Kevin's going to have to work on that a little bit too.
Well, if it stays as close as it is. We've already seen our last match was decided by ride time.
Kevin had a real exciting match last night, coming from behind in the last 30 seconds to score a big 4-point move to win the match. So he should be feeling pretty good today.
If he can get control.
He's trying to get the legs in and run what we call a power half at the same time to turn his opponent. He can't get the leverage because now at this point he's a little too high. He's got to get back a little more. He's got to stay behind his opponent's arms. Now he's trying to stretch him out a little bit. There, he stretched him out. He'll be able to hang on to this now. There you see Joe Bateman stepped in and called a potentially dangerous situation. That's where a wrestler, it's a legal move, but the wrestler could get injured, so they'll stop the action to avoid the injury.
Well, you might, I don't know at home if you might have heard Miley, but he let out a couple of moans. I don't know if that's a psych job too.
Occasionally it is. You get in a position you don't want to be in, you'll yell a little bit. But the NCAA has added a new rule in the last couple of years. They call it the scream rule. If you're in a position, they call it an imminent near fall, where you're going to your back and you let out a yell, call timeout, injury time, the referee goes ahead and awards the points for the imminent near fall, and he'll give 2 points. He didn't do it there because they weren't in a position where he was going to get turned. I think he was legitimately hurt there. That's a rule I don't like. I don't like that potentially dangerous. As far as I'm concerned, if it's a legal move and it's,
right,
if it hurts, that's part of the sport.
Well, I think too that sometimes we just talked about it can be abused. The wrestler at the disadvantage can use that rule to his advantage, where that's not meant as an advantage to anybody. It's meant for safety purposes, but as we all say, whatever gets you by and gets you the win, sometimes that's what you do. And in this case, you can use the rules to your advantage when it's not meant that way.
Okay. As far as riding time goes, Kevin Phelps is subtracting Miley's riding time at this point, and it just went under 1 minute, so there is no point for riding time at this time.
And that's something you'd mentioned earlier that Kevin would have to do.
And he did it. He's done a good job of riding on top here. He's doing an excellent job. He's keeping good. But real important in wrestling is when you're down on the mat is wrist control, and that's important for both wrestlers. You want to keep control of your opponent's wrist, because that's one of his points, his supporting points. If you can control a wrestler's hands or his wrists, you're in good position.
You might have heard the UNO wrestling team over on the far side from our position cheering Phelps on because he has come back. He's done a good job to cut into that riding time. As RJ said, it's less than a minute. Now it's down to 39 seconds. And he did a good job to take control. And right now, if you're going to give a momentum advantage, it has to be with Kevin.
The tide has turned a little bit here. Kevin needs a lift here so keep Miley from getting out from underneath him. No points. Really, I'll tell you what, this mat this year is a little bit smaller than UNO used to have. They cut it down a little bit, and Kevin just took advantage of it right there, getting out of bounds.
Well, I think he did a real good job, too, of being able to make that last moment switch. Otherwise, it looked like maybe Miley might get an escape out of that, but he was able to prevent it.
He needs to hang on to him here for another 15 seconds. It's real important that he doesn't give up any points here. I imagine what we'll see, since Miley did such a good job of riding Kevin earlier, we might see Kevin take the neutral position in the third period. Oh, he's getting himself in trouble now. Oh, that was a crucial error. That was a crucial. Kevin got careless. He forced a move that he shouldn't have done and gave up a 2-point reversal. That was a crucial error in my book.
4-1 now, Miley on that reversal. And you saw that right from the start, too. I saw your reaction, RJ. You knew the minute they started to move what was going to happen.
Yep. You know, that's a situation. So in wrestling, one move can cost you the match. I think that may have just done it right there.
Well, Kevin did such a good job to fight his way back in this thing.
Now he has taken, I'm surprised he's taken down here because he got ridden for 2 minutes in the first period. He's going to have to get out right away. You don't want to let Miley go to work on him. Well, he might get out. He's working here. You'll see he was working for that wrist control.
And he gets those escape points, so now it's 4-2.
Maybe that one mistake won't cost him the match. You'll see Kevin try to headlock there. Kevin, like I said, Kevin is an upper body wrestler. Right. Uses the headlock quite a bit. Like I said, last night Kevin came from behind with 30 seconds to go. Maybe we'll see it again today. I hope so.
Yeah, I'll tell you though, you live like that sometimes. It's tough.
Kevin is a wrestler that likes to live on the edge, I'll tell you that. You see Miley's blocking off with his head here, keeping the inside position. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a stalling call in a second here on Miley.
Does Miley look a little tired to you at this point, RJ?
He does a little bit, but that time he hustled right back to the center. I was a little surprised. Occasionally you'll see a wrestler, they'll go out of bounds and he'll hang out around the edge over here and not hustle back to the center. If you get a wrestler that does that, you should take a hustle back to the center to make him come back in and wrestle. Minute 19 to go. Miley's in on a shot. Like I said, he likes that low single. Kevin's got himself in trouble again here.
Yeah, he's got that one leg up off the mat. Now they call a stalemate.
Got a stalemate position. Now, that was a quick stalemate. I was surprised he called it that quick.
That was, I think that went to the benefit of Kevin in that situation. As you said, Miley got up underneath his right leg. Well, you don't want to have any of your points off the mat, I'll tell you, because when that happens, you're at your opponent's mercy.
Kevin's really opening up here. Like we said earlier in Billy Glenn's match, he waited till the end. Kevin's really picking up the pace here. Hopefully, Miley's conditioning will hurt him in this situation. I think Kevin should have been picking the pace up right off the bat, knowing that Miley hasn't wrestled all year. He can't be in too good a shape. That's a situation where you really push it from start to finish. There's a takedown by Phelps. That'll tie it up 4-4. They're going to cut him. They're going to go for they could have held on and went for the tie, but they're going to go for the win.
Quickly, Miley gets at a point for the escape, so it's 5-4 Miley.
In this situation, UNO is going for the victory. They're not going to be content with the tie. Look at, here's Miley, like I said, sitting on the edge. He's not wanting to hustle back in. Kevin did a good job of getting right back to the center. He's got 30 seconds to open up here. Miley's tired. Kevin can't force anything. He's got to get a good setup. You see, there's a warning for stalling right there. That's only a warning, though. That's not going to hurt him yet. Kevin needs to keep that pressure on and maybe get another warning, which the next one would constitute a point.
He has 20 seconds to pull this match out for UNO. Kevin Phelps does. He's trailing Mark Miley 5-4.
I think we're going to see a throw right here by Kevin Phelps.
He's got to hurry up. There's 13 seconds left.
Miley's backing out again, but see there, he did an offensive move, was able to kill a little bit of time with it.
7 seconds.
Again, he's in on a leg. It may not necessarily be a real offensive move, but it looks offensive to the referee.
And that's it.
There's a situation where UNO went for the victory rather than the tie. I give Kevin Phelps credit, though. I would have done the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, you can't fault.
You don't want to kiss your sister, right?
You can't fault that strategy. And he did have the upper hand at the time, and momentum was all with him. There's no riding time.
Another 3-point victory for North Dakota State. That gives them a lead 11-5.
As Miley comes away with a 5-4 win over Kevin Phelps. And it's getting down to crunch time as far as the team totals go.
Now we're coming into a match here with Mark Anderson for North Dakota State is probably one of their tougher wrestlers on their team.
There we just saw that.
There's that replay of that takedown, Kevin, to tie up the match, and here he's cutting him loose. He's going for the victory. He gives him the 1-point escape.
And that was the difference in the match, as it turned out.
Well, we're halfway through, and UNO's down by 6 points.
Does that make it tough?
Yes and no. I've been on teams where the last few wrestlers on your team were the strength of your team. You know, we had some strong upper weights, and a lot of times we'd be behind. But we were confident no one coming into those top weights that we could come from behind.
Blake Ford for UNO out of Idaho Falls. Mark Anderson, Maple Lake, Minnesota for North Dakota State.
Another Minnesota State champ in Anderson. These two have wrestled this year, and Anderson didn't have much trouble with Ford, but that was when Ford first started wrestling, and I think his conditioning is a little bit better. He's been lifting a little more weights. Hopefully we'll see a little better performance tonight than the last time they paired up. Anderson, I was starting to say Anderson's probably one of the better wrestlers on North Dakota State's team. And he's also currently ranked 4th in the country.
Blake Ford just trying to keep him at bay as Anderson goes for the leg, and then they're off the mat.
There's assistant coach Greg Stensgaard of North Dakota State caught him before they flew into the chairs. Greg Stensgaard was also I think he was a 2-time All-American for North Dakota State, so the All-Americans usually stick around for a while. Blake Ford really likes to use an ankle pick, and if he goes for it tonight, I'll point it out. He'll go to an ankle pick on Anderson's left ankle.
Still early in the first period. We've just gone over a minute, and there's no score. UNO trailing the team total 11-5.
Anderson in on a good shot and a good lift for a takedown.
2 points for Anderson.
You see he's got the legs hooked in there. The key to turning an opponent to his back, the first thing you want to turn is his hips. If you can get his hips to go, it's real easy to get the rest of his body to go. And so that's why he likes to he's keeping that leg hooked to keep Blake's hips turned. There's another stalemate position. Neither wrestler was able to improve.
I think Blake was waiting for that call.
Yeah.
I mean, he just kind of...
Because there was nothing he could do.
Right, but before Joe Bateman blew his whistle, Blake kind of held his hands out like, what, are you going to blow the whistle or what?
There's a caution. Yep, down on Blake on the bottom had a false start. They'll get 2 cautions, 2 false start cautions, and then the third one's a point.
Blake a little too anxious to get out of there. All I can't say that I blame him.
A lot of times a team will coach their wrestlers to go ahead and jump the whistle once in a while because occasionally a ref won't catch it, and you get a little advantage jumping the whistle. If you get 2 cautions, you can get away with 1 without giving up a point. You might as well use it. There you see he's got those legs tied up again, trying to turn the hips. Here he's trying to turn his hips the other direction. It's real tough to do with 1 arm when you're fighting the strength of your opponent's 2 legs.
Ford trying to get to the edge, and he finally does. Boy, Anderson's definitely control this one.
Yeah, he's built up that minute of riding time already.
So we're at 158 pounds, and Mark Anderson holding on to that 2-0 lead in the opening period here. Number 1 UNO against number 2 NDSU. This is also a big conference matchup in the North Central Conference. This is UNO's last home match.
Blake Ford's another one of our junior college transfers in here to UNO from Northwest Wyoming. We've got 4 of them on our team this year. Scott Ruff, Blake Ford, Jesse Smith, and Pat Ginsler. Oh, he warned both wrestlers for stalling there. You don't see that very often. Obviously, referee Joe Bateman felt neither wrestler was offensive. They're both just kind of sitting down there. I'm kind of surprised to see that. Blake shouldn't be sitting down there when you're down by 2 points. You shouldn't ever be called for stalling if you're behind.
Probably trying to figure out this Anderson puzzle because Mark has just really been able to be on top of this match from the start. There you see up on the base now, but Anderson's able to break them down, and there's the buzzer at the end of the first period. 1:46, ride time advantage now.
Another situation here, if Blake Ford has his choice, he probably won't want to choose the down position. And he didn't, he chose both up, the neutral position. Blake's not only a busy wrestler, he's a busy father. He's just recently had his second son. He has one daughter and one son, second child. A little Blake.
Little Blake.
He doesn't have a mustache.
I was going to ask you that. Does he have the mustache too? Yeah, it's a big responsibility, especially now that he's trying to figure out Mark Anderson here. Mavericks hit the road for the rest of the season after this. Well, for Anderson to be as tall as he is, he wrestles compactly.
Yeah, he's got a real good low stance, and I was talking earlier about the conditioning of your legs, being able to stay in that low stance. That's real important to keep your opponent from getting underneath you on those double and single leg attacks. He's staying in a real good low stance, keeping his arms, his hands out in front of him. That's just like another line of defense. You've got to get past those arms. And he's done a good job. You see Blake shot in right there, and Anderson was able to catch him. Oh, good flurry there. Blake Ford took a shot there, but he was a little too far out. Wasn't able to get the penetration that he wanted.
Man, it has to really make it tough when your opponent can get that low as Anderson does. Boy.
You see that, you watch a lot of international style wrestling, the Russians are famous for that. They're just so low. They keep so low you can never get underneath them. Coach Maughan out halfway on the mat again. Yelling instructions. Didn't look like Anderson acknowledged him though.
Get one of those stretch belts and hook one end to Bucky's back of his pants, the other end to a chair back here. Oh, he's so animated. But Blake just can't seem to find an opening anywhere.
Well, like you pointed out, it's that low stance. You know, if you can't get underneath him, Blake might want to start working on his head and his upper body, snapping Miley or Anderson down.
Because that ankle pick, we haven't had a chance for you to tell us about it because he hasn't had an opportunity to get in there.
Now here Anderson's going to choose down.
Or Blake just, you can tell he's frustrated.
You see Anderson's almost actually sitting on his feet there. That keeps his opponent from grabbing his ankles and working any attack off the ankles.
Tremendous flexibility to be able to get in some of the positions that he does.
There he is. He's working, like I said, wrist control or hand control. Blake's going to try to lift him and set him back down. If he doesn't get him back down to the mat here pretty quick, we're going to see a stalling call. And he went ahead and let him go.
1 point escape for Anderson. Now he leads Blake 3-0.
He's in on a pretty deep shot. Blake was able to fight it off. There's a situation again where, you know, the UNO wrestler's a little bit behind. He's going to have to start picking up the tempo a little bit and start pressuring the action.
And you can see Ford trying to work that leg, and he just can't quite get in there.
We've only got about a minute left to go. Blake Ford's going to have to try something if he wants to win this match. He's actually down by 4 points, including the riding time, so he's going to have to go for some big move here pretty quickly. What we might see is him go for some type of throw.
This match is basically the entire match has been on their feet.
I wouldn't be surprised to see Anderson to get called for stalling here.
He just caught one in the eye,
Got a finger in the eye.
Yeah.
Happens quite a bit in this sport.
Definitely unintentional on that one. He was trying to escape. But see, again with the lead, and now the time in his favor, the time left in the period, he really doesn't have to be that aggressive. You have to be cautious because you don't want to get called for stalling or be caught asleep and then have a big...
There's that ankle pick I told you about. There it was. Unfortunately, that's not going to do it because he can't break the riding time.
It's 3-2 now.
He lets him go. He's going to have to go for another quick takedown here. And that's even another quick takedown still wouldn't help him because Anderson's got that riding time going. Oh, there's a point for Blake Ford, stalling on Anderson. I thought he was backing out a little bit, and so did Joe Bateman.
Well, it's 4-3 Anderson on the scoreboard plus riding time, so Ford has 4 seconds to do something, and that'll do it.
That was just a last effort, let it all hang out type move.
So on the 2-point takedown for Anderson, it is now 6-3.
Real good match, an exciting match right there, right up to the end.
So Anderson will win it. And another 3 points.
Like I said, Anderson dominated Blake Ford earlier in the year at a tournament in Northern Iowa. Blake's come a long way since then, almost won that match.
Now there's a real big difference on the scoreboard.
I think we're going to show a replay of that ankle pick here that I was talking about. Here it is. You'll see him reach across, got that right ankle or left ankle, and was able to finish the takedown. He still has not got points yet at this point. He has to get his opponent down to the mat.
Well, you can see how he works.
There he's down, right there. He's down to his supporting points. That's when he'll be awarded the points.
But with that flurry of action, it still does not get UNO any closer to North Dakota State as the Bison win the match at 158. Now they lead it 14-5.
Today is Alumni Day here at UNO, and you'll see in the crowd there's a lot of former All-Americans, former wrestlers. They've been trying to point them out on the PA system as much as possible. Here's a matchup with 2 freshmen, but 2 freshmen that have quite a bit of experience.
Yeah, let's see. Scott Stogdill for UNO is 28. This will be his 29th match.
He's been another pleasant surprise, like Mark Bauer. He's come on real strong. He's looking for his 20th win here today. That's real good for a freshman. He's actually a redshirt freshman. He came to UNO last year and redshirted. Came here out of Glenwood, Iowa. Was a state runner-up there over in Iowa. We talked about the University of Iowa being tough.
Right.
State wrestling, high school wrestling is also as tough. Oh, he got himself in trouble there. This is not a good position for Scott Stogdill. This isn't a match UNO wanted to lose either. He's got him pretty tight, and there's 2 minutes left in the period.
Boy, that angle is just so tough.
I've seen Stogdill get out of this exact position earlier in the year, though. There he got out of it again. That's just strength and desire right there. And you'll see he came right back after him. He's not backing away. That's the one thing I like about Scott Stogdill's style. He's always coming after his opponents. He doesn't back away from anybody.
Well, so with that flurry of action, what that did is he got 3-point near fall with a 2-point takedown. And
then the 1-point escape for Stogdill.
So it's 5-1 Koenig, as you see there.
This is going to be a tough deficit to come from behind on. Lance Koenig's a freshman, 5-9-1 record. He's got a little experience under his belt. He was a 3-time state champion in North Dakota. He's in on a shot. He's got some really nice technique. Stogdill was able to fight out of it. What you see here, they're wrestling right there on the edge. If you can finish the takedown and 2 of your supporting points are still within that ring, you score. You see he tried to keep his toes inside. Wasn't able to do it.
So they'll go back to the center and start again, but this match is definitely heated up.
I can tell just by his style alone, Koenig is an experienced wrestler. What you'll see here, he's putting more than 1 move together. He's not out there taking a shot and relaxing.
Right.
He's putting 2, 3, 4 moves together. That's a sign of a good wrestler.
Doesn't give your opponent very much time to
doesn't give
counter.
time to breathe.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that. Even though Stogdill's behind 5-1 here, he can't go out and just get careless and go out on a reckless abandon. There's a lot of time left in the match, so he's got to still wrestle his match. He can't get out of his head. There's Koenig's in on a good shot. Stogdill still countering, no points yet. He's got what we call a whizzer, keeping his arm within his opponent's arm, keeping the arm hooked, not allowing him to gain control. 35 seconds left in the first period. Exciting first period.
Yeah, it is, very much so.
Almost a short one.
A lot of points scored, especially by Koenig. He got the 5 because he got Scott in a real bad position earlier and got 3 points for the near fall. Now he hasn't been able to do much since then, but we have had a lot of action.
Koenig working the arms there. You see, he's putting a lot of moves together. Right there, Stogdill's pummeling in for that inside position, trying to get the underhooks.
Stogdill likes to work on the head. He likes to
he does.
Rub the head.
In fact, he got in a little trouble for it last night. He was penalized for staying in the opponent's eyes too much, getting him in the face a little bit too much. Looks like he's holding his back a little bit.
Well, trying to fight out of the near fall, I think really kind of put him in a peppermint twist situation. And I guess they're going to start the injury clock.
There you see a couple members of the UNO training staff out there. Beef Stew Boley and Rob Carmichael.
So now they'll walk the clock. They work the clock on this.
Looked like he might have pulled a muscle or maybe pinched a nerve in his back. I think he'll be able to continue. If they cannot continue, is a default, which results in the same amount of points as a fall, which would be 16 points.
16 points. That would be just devastating.
That'd be devastating.
Yeah.
UNO wouldn't be able to come from behind on that.
So Stogdill will be down. And false start.
Almost looked like both of them jumped a little bit there, but he called Stogdill.
Only 26 seconds of ride time built up.
But all of that was on his back.
Right.
Tell you what, you get caught in a move like that, and that takes a lot of energy out of you to fight off of your back, especially 30 seconds on your back. That's tough. Koenig's doing a good job of staying behind his arms, not getting too high, staying back to keep himself from getting in trouble. In that type of a situation, when he stays behind the arms like that, the worst he's going to get in is a situation where Stogdill can get an escape and he can let him go without giving up a 2-point reversal.
So especially with a 5-1 lead, again, he's got some opportunities to try some things. And as you said, as long as he doesn't get foolish.
Right. Good effort by Stogdill there. Went through a sit-out and then into a stand-up for a 1-point escape. He's down 5-2 now, and Koenig has 1 minute and 1 second of riding time, so he has that advantage. What you're going to see is Scott Stogdill likes to shoot a low single leg to his opponent's right leg. Both these wrestlers are young. That's some of the problems sometimes with being young. You saw when Stogdill got caught on his back, a young wrestler makes a few mistakes once in a while. Koenig's in on that same move again, and he's got him on his back again, and there's Joe Bateman down counting the near fall points. Gave him 2-point near fall, and then Stogdill got another 1-point escape. Like I was just right before that happened, I said, he has a tendency to make a few mistakes. That'll come with maturity. That should put the score at 9-3.
So Koenig now with a big 6-point lead. Well, that was close too.
Saw there Koenig pointed out that Stogdill's shoe was untied. Not something I would see. There's a freshman mistake. I would have tried to take him down on that untied shoe. Of course, I needed to take advantage of anything I could.
Yeah. I've seen you. I know what you can do. But no, you're right. That's a good, tactical maneuver to point out because as the buzzer sounds, and Koenig definitely getting a standing O from his teammates, and he should. That was a good. He has performed really well.
Yeah, he's starting to dominate this match.
He's built up 1 minute and 8 seconds now of ride time, although that's kind of moot at this juncture.
Actually, North Dakota State thought Koenig was going to wrestle 177 this year, so he's cut down another weight class, another 10 pounds. Doesn't look like it's hurt him at all in his performance. Scott Stogdill, on the other hand, is usually UNO's 158-pounder. Due to an injury to Pat Ginsler, the 190-pounder, we've had to bump a few guys up a weight.
I guess that can really make a difference in some situations when you have to move up a weight class.
You're giving up about 10 pounds. Maybe not actually in weight, but strength.
Right.
You know, the one thing about wrestling, you weigh in. Like a dual match like this, they started at 2 o'clock. I believe they weighed in around 10 o'clock this morning. So they may have weighed 167 this morning, but I bet you right now they're both about 175, 180 pounds. Not that I would have ever jumped up.
Oh no, I
always held my weight right on the line,
yeah,
like I still have.
Yeah, that's true. Some of us can't say that. Well, Stogdill trying to work on
like
that
I said,
ankle.
he's in on that his opponent's left leg. He needs to work a finish here. Now he got a little careless there, but he got it anyhow.
So that'll make it 10-5 now. Koenig with the lead.
I imagine what we're going to see here is Stogdill will start to cut him loose, release him for that 1-point escape, and keep going for those takedowns. Minute 10, he still has to come from 5 points down. That'd take a lot of takedowns.
Well, a pin.
There's that international start. Let him go.
It's 11-5 now. Koenig. Of course, if he pins Koenig, he doesn't have to worry about all those takedowns.
Right.
But
one way he could pin him, you know, he may have to go in for a high-risk move like a throw. There's his shoe came untied again. A high-risk move to put him on his back from his feet, take him from his feet to his back, resulting in a takedown and the near fall points. Here comes a replay. Nope, they're not going to show it. We're going right back into the action. There he is on that low single again. He needs to finish quickly, maybe to his back. If he can take him to his back from this position. He didn't do it. He got the 2-point takedown. He let him go again.
12-7. Koenig.
See, he's gotten 2 takedowns, but he's still down by 5 points because he's had to give up those escapes.
But Scott has been able to work inside twice now, whereas earlier he couldn't do that. But with the time against him now, 20 seconds, less than 20
left.
seconds.
He needs to open up and he needs to go for something, you know, a desperation move at least. You don't want to see him give up any big points, though, because that would result in a major decision for 14 points for North Dakota State. And there's the end of it. So 12-7 decision for Koenig of North Dakota State. Give them another 3 points. That makes the team score 17-5.
Well, it's getting a little...
We're going to see a replay of that low single that I talked about. Oh, this is early in the match where Koenig put Stogdill onto his back.
Whoa.
Right there, a little. I think that a lot of guys call that move a Kelly, a little Kelly dump to his back.
Trying to keep his shoulders up off that mat. So we move on to the next weight class at 177 pounds. As you see, North Dakota State with a 17. Actually, it's 17-5 in the team points. Jesse Smith, Jeff Ersland. Smith at 24-7. Ersland is a sophomore at 9-5-2.
Jesse Smith, another one of those transfers from Northwest Wyoming. He is a junior college All-American as well as Division II All-American. He placed in 1989. He placed 5th. One of the senior leaders of the UNO team. They're going to need a big victory here. They've moved him up from 167 to 177. Like I said earlier, everybody bumped up a notch. Being down by 12 team points, UNO needs some big victories. He was in on a low single there, but wasn't able to finish. Jeff Ersland, a sophomore, has a little bit of experience, 9-5-2. 2-time state champ, another one from Minnesota.
I'll tell you, Jesse got out of that and walked away, and Ersland almost caught him from behind.
Apparently Ersland's put on a little muscle in the last year. They were expecting him to be down around 158 pounds, and he's moved up quite a bit. I don't know if he's gotten any taller or what, but he's up 2 weight classes from what they expected him to be at.
Doesn't look like he's lost too much quickness, though, RJ.
But usually those lighter wrestlers are quicker wrestlers. It's a complete different style from the way these guys will wrestle in comparison to the way the 118-pounders will wrestle. And you'll see that when we get into the heavyweights, too. It's just a different style of wrestling. The lighter guys like to think they're better, but I always tell them they need to come up and wrestle where the men are in the upper weights.
I was going to tell you, you telling me that Ted Nelson's style is different than Chris Taylor from Ohio State?
Yeah, a little.
Yeah.
Jesse Smith tends to have a real wild style. He likes to flop around a little bit out there. I'm sure we'll see that as the match goes on. He's a powerful wrestler. Still 0-0. We're a minute into the first period.
A little bit of extracurricular activity a couple of minutes ago on the far side.
I think that has to do with these guys from Wyoming, these Cowboys. Scott Ruff, Jesse Smith, Pat Gensler, they like to rough it up a little bit.
Oh, we got a little bit of blood.
That's something that won't count against a wrestler's injury time. Bleeding does not count for injury time. If the wrestler gets a bloody nose or, a cut eyebrow or cut chin, they do not count that under your injury time. They'll let you bleed all you want.
Oh, that's real nice of them. But at least that's an obvious. Another thing too. That's something that has to be stopped.
Yeah.
Quite animated match at this point, but
you see they're getting a little physical here. Like I said before the match started today, there's going to be some extracurriculars out here. It's going to get a little rough, a little out of control, and this is one wrestler that I would expect to do that. And you're not going to see anybody from North Dakota State backing down either.
No, these two teams go at it head-to-head.
Occasionally, a wrestler will go out there and try to get real physical and try to intimidate a wrestler. A lot of times you'll see a wrestler, senior or junior wrestler wrestling a younger opponent get real physical in hopes of intimidating. Even though Ersland's only a sophomore, he doesn't look like he's too intimidated, does it?
No, he's going for it. I think with these two guys, intimidation might not be possible, just more of confusion. Try to confuse the other guy or maybe find a hole and exploit that, because these two guys look pretty evenly matched to me, RJ.
Size-wise, I'd say they're probably pretty evenly matched. Experience-wise, I'd have to give the edge to Smith.
Right.
He's been around a while, redshirted last year. A red shirt can only help a wrestler get that extra year of experience in.
About half a minute to go in this period, and there's still no score, but North Dakota State leads the team score 17-5. NDSU ranked second. The Mavericks ranked number 1 in the nation coming into this duel. 19 seconds to go in the period. Neither wrestler at this point has been able to get a decided advantage.
Both wrestlers are really fighting to try to get that inside position.
10 seconds. And Ersland is bleeding again. It looks like it's just underneath the earpiece.
Yeah, it's coming from right underneath his headgear. The reason they wear that headgear, if you ever meet a wrestler out on the street, you take a look at his ears, and you know why. They what they call his cauliflower ear. I was kind of surprised I could get my headset on today because of mine.
Well, you use your head a lot for balance, or counterbalance, I should say. And, your head just gets raked across these mats. And if you just walk up and touch the mat, and maybe even on your TV screen, it looks a little shiny, might feel soft with your hands. If you try raking your face across that a couple of times, you'll see just how soft it is not.
What you'll end up getting, they call it mat burns, similar to what you might get a carpet burn in your house. Something that you have constantly in wrestling.
Coming down to the end of the period, don't think anything's going to happen until before the buzzer. There's the buzzer again. There's a stream of blood on Ersland just coming off the right side of his face.
Doesn't seem to be bothering him at all.
But as we get ready for the second period, this is probably going to be the period something's going to happen, huh?
Yeah, right here. Somebody will score here, I'll guarantee that. Ersland takes down in this position. Jesse Smith likes to use that cradle. We saw Scott Ruff try it earlier.
Right.
Jesse Smith will try a cradle starting from the right side and cradling his opponent's head and his left leg. That's the side he likes to use best. If he gets an opportunity, if Ersland keeps getting up like that, Jesse won't have the opportunity to slap that cradle on.
Try to work that leg to prevent Ersland from getting outside, but he couldn't quite do it.
Ersland hustling right back to the middle.
Well, he's just raring to go.
Yeah, he's doing a good job. In fact, Ersland, I believe, has beat out a North Dakota State All-American, Tom Kerpak, for this position. So he must be doing something right. There, Jesse Smith went for the cradle, but it was too late. Ersland was already up to his feet. He was unable to close it in. Smith doing a good job. You see, they're getting a little wild there. Like I said earlier, he's a wild wrestler. He's all over the mat. He's built up about 30 seconds of riding time. I think he's going to try to get his riding time built up and then maybe go back up onto their feet.
Well, we got him down now. He's just got to... Ersland, well, this guy just really won't give up.
Yeah.
I mean,
he's a fighter. He's going after it.
You can't get an advantage on him.
I'm sure one of his objectives, too, is to keep this match close and maybe try to pull it out at the end. You know, you're wrestling a guy that's an All-American. More than likely, you're not going to blow him away. So you might want to try to keep the match close and win it in the last 30 seconds with a takedown or an escape.
Well, Smith
there,
has
they're
over
zooming in on
now.
Ersland's face there. You can see that blood coming out from underneath his headgear.
Stalemate.
Another stalemate. Back up.
Minute 9 seconds in riding time for Smith. And again, we'll point out at this juncture, the way this match has gone, that could be a big 1 point. Now we'll have stoppage in the wrestling again. They've got to wipe the blood off his face. And
I think Jesse Smith might have a cut underneath his nose. I saw UNO trainer wiping a Vaseline swab underneath his nose.
Yeah, Jesse seemed to be working his nose a few minutes ago, too. And I wasn't sure if he was just wiping off maybe some of Ersland's blood that had got on him or if he was having some problems with his own.
Ersland working up to his feet, working for that escape, trying to get hand control. Smith's doing a good job of getting him back down every time. Now Smith's got that leg in. You see, that's an excellent way to ride. Keep your opponent flat down to the mat.
Right.
Get a lot of leverage onto their back.
And it keeps them long, too.
Right.
Doesn't give them a chance to get those legs
you see,
up.
The camera will back out a little. You'll see every once in a while Smith, there he's got Ersland's feet up in the air. There's nothing Ersland can do from this position. Smith's controlling him pretty well. Again, Jesse Smith staying back behind his opponent really well, not getting out too high in front of him. 3 seconds left in the period, and Jesse Smith has been successful at riding him out for the whole period. Built up 2 minutes of riding time.
Well, there's no doubt that next period there's got to be a flurry of action with some points involved, or we're going to see a match go all the way down to ride time with no score. Now, we've had a match decided by the ride time point, but we haven't had a scoreless on the mat match yet today. But that's where we are at this point as we go into our final period. No score between Jesse Smith of UNO and Jeff Ersland of North Dakota State. But again, Smith with 2 minutes of ride time.
Jesse Smith is really tough out of the bottom. I don't imagine Ersland's going to stay on top too long here. This will be the first lead in the match if there is any points scored here.
Oh, man.
He's quick. He's quick out of the bottom. He's already, there's his 1 point escape right there. He takes the lead 1-0. Oh, there's a throw attempt, an outside trip by Ersland. Well, here we go. A little extra trigger. There's going to be a penalty point against Jesse Smith. That was uncalled for. That could get himself in trouble, you know.
Yeah, Mike Denny, you might see on the far side of your screen, on the far side of the floor,
It's okay to be aggressive, but you've got to control your temper because they will call you for it.
Now, Coach Denny saying, talking to Jesse. There you see Coach Denny saying, what was that for? So now that puts us back to where we were. We're even, although now there are points on the board, but it's even at 1-1.
Now they're back in the center. Referee usually make him shake hands. No, he didn't do it there. Not that it helps. They probably still won't like each other.
Well, again, there's no doubt how big a duel this is between NDSU and UNO.
No pushing there. That referee starts calling points, they'll get under control real quick. Ersland in on a good shot. Smith was able to fight it off. Smith's a real strong wrestler. Now he counters with another shot and takes him down. Excellent move by Smith. There's another situation where I said, here it is. Smith's going to get called again. Another technical violation. He's gotten a little rough on the face there. If they show a replay of that, you'll see he's getting out of control.
Well, he leads the match right now, 3-2 on that 2-point.
Coach Denny's getting on him over there on the side. I don't think Coach should be doing this. He needs to get back in there. They will warn him for stalling for staying out there too long. I was surprised referee Joe Bateman didn't say anything there.
Boy, Ersland just going straight for the edge. But again, Smith able to keep him in.
I hope we can get a replay of that. You'll see Jesse was really roughing up the face of Ersland, and resulting in a point. Makes the score 3-2 Smith. He's ahead on that takedown, but both points of Ersland's came from illegal moves by Jesse Smith. Technical violations, unsportsmanlike conduct. There's an escape. He gives Ersland a 1-point escape there. That ties it 3-3. A minute left in the match. Jesse Smith's going to have to get another takedown here.
Boy, it's really getting wild. I think that 1 point, a warning on the escape might have surprised Smith.
There's the score, 3-3. 2 of Ersland's 3 points come from Smith, giving him the points.
Boy, they both look hard work now. This has been a high-intensity match. Smith, the upperclassman, a senior. Ersland, just a sophomore.
There's a shot attempted by Ersland. Smith was able to counter, but both were out of bounds. No points scored.
33 seconds left.
There's a caution against North Dakota State. That was a false start caution. I think it looks like we might see a stalling call here. Smith's been backing out. That's the second time in a row he's backed out of the circle. What you need to do when they get out to that outer edge, even though your opponent's pushing, you need to circle back in, because if you continually back out of the circle, the referee will think you're stalling even though you may not be. Smith in on a low single, 13 seconds left. He should be able to hang on to this and hang on to the victory with riding time.
He's working on that leg. Oh,
there's a potentially dangerous situation.
Yep. Well, he broke that angle too. He had it, he bent that knee. Bent the leg at the knee behind Ersland, and he had that angle. You broke that angle and the degree of the angle, and that's when the whistle went up.
4 seconds left in the match, and that should do it. Although the score says 3-3 on the scoreboard, Jesse Smith will win 4-3 with 2 minutes and 15 seconds of riding time.
Well,
a match that I didn't expect to be that close. Ersland. We're going to see the technical violation of Smith when they went out of bounds at one time. And you watch, here they come up, and there he goes, he shoves him. Wasn't really any call for that.
Yeah.
It wasn't necessary.
Now that's what RJ's been talking about when he says being in control. So now that moves the team score to 17-8, North Dakota State ahead. Joe Wypiszenski, senior, 24-4, up at 190 pounds, taking on the junior Brian Nelson. Nelson out of Cold Spring, Minnesota, and of course Joe from Green Bay, Wisconsin.
There's your team score, 17-8. UNO's quite a bit behind now with only 3 matches to go. 2 matches, I'm sorry. I'm used to Joe wrestling 177 pounds, but again today he's moved up to 190 in the absence of Pat Ginsler. Affectionately known as the Whipper. Only because nobody can pronounce his last name.
Yeah. Well, he came on the campus and he made quite a stir with his first year here at UNO.
He's 3-time All-American. He transferred in from Northern Michigan after they dropped their program. He was an All-American there as a freshman and then came in here and went right back to the same thing. Was All-American 2 years straight for UNO. Looking for his 4th All-American title here this year. Joe's also one of those guys that we talked about was a Division I All-American. Was in the finals last year of the Division IIs, which qualified him to go to the Division I national tournament only because of the grandfather clause of that rule. He was still in college when they had the former rule, so the grandfather clause allows him to go to the nationals, and it will allow him to go again this year if he qualifies.
Well, in that case, he's unique.
Right, he's the only wrestler on the UNO team that is allowed to. Which is also kind of disappointing. It's not real fun just to go you and your coach. It's a lot more fun to go along with your team and have your teammates there cheering you on. And not that Coach Denny's not a good guy to go with.
No, I understand. No, I know exactly. Camaraderie there.
Right.
And just be able to relate experiences with other wrestlers. Boy, Joe just took a hit in the eye, left in the right eye.
I'm looking at this to be one of the best matches of the night. You got 3-time All-American Wypiszenski against an All-American Nelson for North Dakota State. Both wrestlers are ranked 2nd in the country at their respective weights.
And of course, as we mentioned several times already, Wypiszenski up from 177. He's wrestling in an 190 class. They're attending to Wypiszenski over there.
I haven't seen any blood to see if he's.
I think he might have bumped heads with Nelson, and
they're going to show another replay of Jesse Smith's last match where he got a little too physical. Right here, you'll see his right hand cross the face, and he gets a little out of hand. Here comes another one, ripping it in there.
Yeah, a little bit of tape. Huh?
Yeah, uncalled for though.
Yeah,
uncalled for.
Something you're used to seeing on Sunday mornings on some of those all-star wrestling things. That's too bad to see too, because I think Jesse again, the frustration, and we had talked about that earlier.
Yeah, just the fact
he continue to work on Joe Wypiszenski.
Frustrated against his opponent, not allowing him to do the things he wanted to do, and not that Ersland scored a lot of points on him, but he just was real defensive, real strong defensively. There is a little blood. I see some blood on the towel coming off the eye of Wypiszenski. I hope he is able to continue.
Minute 32 left in this period. No score, and we're at 190 pounds. And again, I think what happened was Nelson came up, went to try to counter move, and the back of his head came up, and it got Wypiszenski on the top of the right eye, around the eyebrow area, I do believe. As you see the training staff looking at working at Wypiszenski. Let's talk real quickly about that rule that's now going to prevent national champion Division II wrestlers to go on to Division I. How is that going to affect Division II wrestling, do you think?
I think it's really going to hurt it, because in the past a coach could recruit a wrestler from high school by saying, yes, you can come here, it's a Division II program, but you still can go on to become a Division I All-American and wrestle with the best in the country. Now that I see it already, it has hurt Division II wrestling. I think the caliber of wrestling in Division II is starting to slip a little bit because of that. And I think it's solely because of that rule. And the reason they lost, they changed that rule, basically, I don't mean to offend any Division I coaches, but they voted it out, and I think they were a little upset because some of the Division II wrestlers were coming in and beating their guys.
Well, you've experienced that, and some of your teammates. We talked about that kid from Johnstown, Carlton Hasselrig.
As a matter of fact, my senior year, when I went to Division I tournament, we had 2 wrestlers from Division II at 177 pounds that were All-Americans in Division I also.
Yeah.
So that took 2 spots away from a Division I wrestler. The one thing nice about wrestling is you are still allowed to wrestle Division I opponents. We see a lot of Division I opponents in open tournaments. We wrestled this year down at Central Missouri, Oklahoma was down there. Several wrestlers from Oklahoma State, University of Missouri. So there's three of the top three teams in the Big 8, which is predominantly known as being the top conference of college wrestling.
And those are 3 good wrestling teams too, as you mentioned. It can't hurt to get some experience against those type of guys.
The first time we ran into North Dakota State this year was at Northern Iowa, which is another Division I school. Northern Iowa is a real big, tough tournament with several Division I opponents, including University of Iowa, Iowa State.
That's right.
So,
what happens now with Joe if they can't get this blood stopped enough to let him?
Like we said earlier, if he cannot continue, that would be a default. It looked like they've bandaged it up. You see some tape over his eye there. He is going to be able to continue. Again, bleeding does not constitute injury time. They don't take away your injury time for that. They've taped him up and he's back right out there. Joe's a tough kid that doesn't miss very many matches because of injury. There he's nice. He's really in on a good shot there. He's be able to lift. He's not able to finish it though. That was a move where Nelson tried to snap Wypiszenski down and Wypiszenski took right in on a single leg shot.
A little bit of maintenance on those bandages by Joe Bateman.
I don't imagine that's going to stay on there too good. They might have to wrap something around his head a little better. Good shot by Nelson.
2 points.
Excellent shot by Nelson. He's going for the turn here. You see he's got the legs crossed again, able to turn those hips. Wypiszenski, not an individual that's real easy to turn though, so you probably won't see him get turned very often.
Very technically sound match right here. There's a lot of action, but it's not like bad blood action.
Right.
I mean, as a matter of fact, they even shook hands after Joe came back from getting that cut.
I don't think that that cut was intentional. I think he probably got head-butted at some point accidentally. You're right when you say technically sound. There's a nice move by Wypiszenski, a 2-point reversal. He actually was falling down, but fell right into the leg. Was able to reverse Nelson. Nelson's knee got twisted a little bit in the process. Now this will constitute injury time.
Right, they will run the clock
that ties
on
the
this.
score up 2-2.
Yeah, there's 39 seconds left to go in this period, and because of the cut to Joe Wypiszenski, it's kind of drawn this particular match out. But that was a good move.
Both these wrestlers have started for their team since they were freshmen. Joe started at Northern Michigan and then coming here and continue to start in here. And Brian Nelson's been a starter for North Dakota State since a freshman. You know, that's an impressive feat alone when you consider the caliber of these teams and the depth that they have. There we go. Like I said, they're probably going to have to wrap something around his head. I think we're going to get a look at a replay of when this eye injury occurred. There it is, right there. Nelson's head came back. That's a real susceptible area right there on the eyebrow. The sharp bone gets hit quite a bit. Right there and across the cheekbones. You'll see that a lot in wrestling.
You know, I'm wondering now how this, now they've taken some gauze. If you look on the left side of your screen, you might see the white band around Wypiszenski's head. There you go. Now that's going to have to be tough for him to contend with, because I know they're going to try to keep it out of his eyesight, but still you've got that wrap coming around your forehead and the top of your eyebrows.
Like I said, that's Beef Stew Boley attending to him there, and he'll do a good job, I'm sure.
Stu. What a guy. Well, now what's this going to do for Joe? Yeah, I don't know if you've ever had to wrestle with something like this, but I would think...
I don't think it's going to affect him a whole lot. Occasionally something like this where the bandage might cover a little bit of your vision. It doesn't look like it will in this case, but I don't think it should affect him at all. We're going to see it again here. He did get hit pretty hard.
You can see his head bounce back when he gets hit.
Again, unintentional, just trying to get back into a good position.
Ugh, man.
Took a pretty good shot.
Well, there we go, with 26 seconds left to go in the period.
You were talking earlier, two real technically sound wrestlers. Joe tends to have a little bit of a conservative style, and I think Nelson is a little more of a wide open style wrestler. So this is conflicting styles. We're going to see who prevails.
Almost had him turned over, but Nelson does a good job to get back up. 8 seconds to go in the period.
There was a case where Nelson was getting a little advantage in the position, and Wypiszenski was able to get him out of bounds.
Five seconds to go in the period.
There's a caution on Wypiszenski. Jump the whistle again. We've seen quite a few of those today.
Nelson opting for a wider stance with his feet when he's down. But with 5 seconds
Occasionally
left,
you see a wrestler doing that, just trying to get a little better base underneath him to keep from getting broken down flat.
Well, Nelson has the option.
He defers it over to Wypiszenski. I imagine he'll go down. No, he took down.
As we start, there you see KYNE, Channel 26 here in Omaha. Glad you could be with us. Joy of Painting will follow this immediately. We will be going past the 4 o'clock hour because of the delay in this match, so you'll want to stay tuned for Joy of Painting right here on KYNE.
You think the same people will stay and watch both?
Well, I don't know. These guys are painting a pretty good picture right now. Now, see, Joe's got that. He's just lifted that band up.
Looks like the bandage has come loose a little bit. It's got bandage all over the place.
This has to be frustrating for both wrestlers because
yeah, it is.
It's hard to get into any kind of rhythm, I can imagine.
You know, you get a little momentum going and it keeps getting stopped. It keeps getting stopped. You know, again, we were talking earlier about the conditioning. You have an opponent that is a little out of shape. You might want to push him a little bit, and then this is going to keep you from doing it.
That's right. You can't do it.
You know, he's going to keep getting a break here. Not that either one of these is out of condition, but, you know.
Well, still to come yet are our heavyweights, Dan Carricker against Tim Tekautz. And
this may be a match where it comes down to the heavyweight match.
17-8 with the UNO trailing on the team score. 1:32 remaining in this period. And
here they go, back at action. You see a little blood coming out of that bandage. He must have a pretty good gash. Facial cuts do tend to bleed a little bit more than other parts of the body, though. I don't imagine it's a real painful type of injury that's going to hinder him in any way. Nelson holding a 3-2 advantage after the escape.
Both looking for some type of opening.
You see a lot of faking, feigning here, and a little tentativeness, you know, not really wanting to open up and go in and take a chance of giving up a takedown while you're trying to get one.
51 seconds.
Wypiszenski isn't a wrestler that likes to wrestle in the upper body a whole lot. He likes to stay out here in the open, take his shots when he can get them. He doesn't like to tie up a whole lot. Looks like Nelson, on the other hand, wants to get into that position, but Wypiszenski won't allow it. There's a shot taken by Nelson, not a real good shot, didn't set it up very well. When I say set up, you've almost got a clear path. Find an opening and or make an opening. And a lot of times you'll see wrestlers take shots without a setup and they end up in a poor position like right there.
About 12 seconds to go in this period. Nelson with a 3-2 lead.
You'll see there coming across the screen that the match has gone a little long. The reason for that is because these teams are so evenly matched, we haven't seen any pins.
That's right.
There hasn't been any quick matches.
So the buzzer goes off, as you heard, and we go into the third and final period of this 190-pound match between UNO's Joe Wypiszenski and North Dakota State's Brian Nelson. Nelson leading 3-2 in this match, and North Dakota State holding a 17-8 lead in the team score.
At this time, riding time isn't a factor in this match. Wypiszenski up to his feet right away, hasn't been able to get away for the escape point yet. Nelson doing a good job of getting him out of bounds, brings him back down.
Well, Joe, of course, as we've said, has moved up to 190 pounds, and I don't know how much time he's had to prepare for his opponent today.
Well, I'm around Joe quite a bit, and I know he's not much under 190 pounds ever. So I don't think it bothered him that he didn't have to cut weight down. Uh-oh. You saw Nelson pulled Joe back to his back real quick for a split second, but there's not enough time. To get near fall points, he has to hold him in a pinning situation for at least 2 seconds to receive 2-point near fall. He wasn't able to do that. Again, Wypiszenski, being technically sound, was able to get off, knew where he was at.
Well, he's got to find himself a way to turn this one around. He's able to get up now.
He's back up to his feet. And there, no, not yet. There's 1-point escape for Wypiszenski. Ties it up 3-3. Riding time isn't a factor. We have 1 minute left in the third period. I think it's going to be whoever wants it worst.
Well, obviously, Joe.
But he's got to get his opponent down to the mat. He has to have the supporting points down to the mat.
So that's 2 points each in the draw, team-wise.
That gives North Dakota State the win.
Yeah, 19-10.
UNO will be unable to come from behind to win it. I was kind of hoping it'd come down to that last match and make it a little exciting here at the end of the day.
Well, it's 19-10, team score. As that match between Joe Wypiszenski and Brian Nelson ended in a draw at 3-3. So we set it up for the heavyweights, and what are they doing? I guess we're not going to have a heavyweight match.
Ladies and gentlemen, forfeits at heavyweight.
Here's a replay of that escape by Nelson. He's got wrist control, he got hand control, and turned to face. I guess we aren't going to have a heavyweight match. UNO is going to forfeit the match. Dan Carricker, the heavyweight for UNO, has had some neck problems this year, and Coach Denny opting to hold him out rather than wrestle against Tekautz, the number 7 ranked heavyweight in the country.
Well, that is a frustrating, disappointing loss for UNO. But Bucky Maughan has come over victorious, and we all know that's gonna probably do in UNO as number 1 at this time. But I mean, it's not devastating. But you never like to lose, especially your last home duel. But hey, they didn't lose to a undeserving team. We know that North Dakota State is as tough as.
Previous to last week, North Dakota State was ranked number 1 and UNO was number 3. They just kind of flip-flop. I imagine they'll just flip-flop again. UNO will probably drop to number 2. North Dakota State will get that number 1 ranking back. The Nationals this year are in Fargo, North Dakota, so North Dakota State's going to be tough. They're tough at home. I know that from experience. They're tough at home. Coach Denny and the UNO Mavericks are going to have to do something to rebound here and coming into the conference and national tournaments.
Give me some thoughts then on what we saw today, RJ.
We saw some really even matches. Like I said, there was no pins. Every match was really close, really exciting. North Dakota State's been predominantly a good dual team. They have depth from top to bottom, which makes them a stronger dual team. Hopefully UNO will have a stronger tournament team. They have a few individuals that could place very high, making them a strong tournament team. They may not have the depth from every 10, in all 10 weight classes, but they could do well in a tournament.
Okay, RJ, thanks a lot. It's been fun again.
Yeah, it has.
And we see you around the campus a lot anyway, so, good luck to you and the Mavericks the rest of the season, but this has been a good time.
Thanks a lot, Tori.
Okay, thanks for being with us. I'm Tori Pantelli for RJ Neby, Jim Langdon, everybody else on the production crew. Thanks a lot for being with us. Again, North Dakota State wins this one, and UNO was number 1 for a while, but we'll see what happens. They still have some more action to do. Thanks for being with us on KYNE. We'll see you again next time. Bye for now.